Good evening. How are y'all? Thank you for joining me once again here at Faith-Based Workplace. I'm doing something a little different this time. I'm actually going to read my article that I mentioned on the last live, The Shield Around Me. I'm going to read it in its entirety this time. Hey, if you're new to the channel, hey, man, go ahead and click that bell so that way you subscribe to the channel. Also, like this video and other videos by clicking the thumbs up. And then also comment on the video, on this video or any other video you see that you like, comment or ask a question in that video. If you want to see certain videos, you also can leave those comments there. Like I said, this video is The Shield Around Me, so it's gonna be a little bit different, but we'll get to that right after this. So again, hey, welcome back. I'm glad y'all here. I'm going to read this this article, like I said, in its entirety. So let's get right into it. And this takes place, you'll see, Iraq 2004 to 2005. Here we go. Landed in Kuwait in September 2004. I knew I was in for a long year. My unit had just finished training in Fort Hood, Texas, and at the National Training Center in Fort Irwin, California, before saying goodbye to our families for our one-year deployment to Iraq. On a long plane ride over, I knew this would be something the Army could not train me for. Don't get me wrong, we were physically trained for our job as much as we could be. However, many of us were lacking mentally. The first month in Kuwait was spent getting acclimated to the weather and getting our equipment set up to the move in Iraq. Kuwait was very hot, but it was a different type of heat from what I was used to in Louisiana. Like I said, in Louisiana, man, we have, humidity, down here in Texas, Mississippi, these southern states. I know we have a lot of humidity and, it's a different kind of heat. But that in Kuwait and Iraq are also different kinds of heat. So I spent my 25th birthday in Kuwait. And I remember that because I think we got there like 8 days before my birthday. And I remember the first sergeant telling me, happy birthday and stuff like that. But it's a birthday I really won't forget, because you're in Kuwait. So, you don't get too many birthdays like that when you're in a foreign country. So, yeah. However, Kuwait wasn't bad compared to what we were in store for in Iraq. Once in Iraq, we did what they call a right seat, left seat ride. So we could see the lay of the land by moving points of view with the current unit that was on the ground. So basically, we would come in, we would sit in the passenger seat. They would tell us, everything they've been doing the last year. They would discuss the, the people maybe that they arrested and, maybe where they lost some soldiers at and, where the choke points at, where they get ID blasts and things like that. You just, you talk about it for, a few weeks or whatever till you switch over and you take over. So let's move forward. Iraq was like nothing I had ever experienced or seen before. The heat was unbearable, and although some people liked us, they had a lot of people that didn't. In what I call the farmland, we found improvised explosive devices of all kinds. This was every time we was going out, there was a lot of people that was farming and doing different things, but every time we went out in the first 6 months, man, they had IEDs buried up under the street and buildings and the side of the road, and they was everywhere. It was like nothing I ever seen. They even had this thing, what you call toe poppers, which they, Americans like kicking stuff down the street, like cans and stuff like that, like soda cans. So these people would put explosives in the soda can. So you kick the can, it actually would mangle your foot. So this is what we was dealing with being in Iraq. So let's keep moving forward. I was in Iraq for 3 weeks when I received a dreaded phone call. And I say I received a dreaded phone call, but I actually called her to check on my kids, But whenever a woman says, hey, I need to tell you something, sit down because it's going to rock you to your core. Our marriage was already on bad terms when I left. I was not the best husband back then. And I was young and not sure where I was going in life or with my marriage. Things I just was, coming to my own. Like I said, I was 25, still young. And, you're in a foreign land fighting for a country. And, you get this news, So what she told me was that she needed to move on and that our time together had ended. Basically, she found somebody else, had been with him, before I left, but she decided to tell me, once I got to Iraq, I guess she was like, hey, and the crazy thing is, now that I'm thinking about this, when she told me that, she had the audacity to say that she thought I wasn't gonna make it back, so she thought that was a good time to tell me that, you know, I found somebody. So hey, welcome to my world, y'all. But anyway, I can't make this stuff up. But here we go. Let's keep reading. Hearing this, my immediate response was anger. I left the phone center feeling depressed, angry, sad, and confused. And the phone center just, you know, they have like 10 or 12 phones in there. We used to get little phone cards from the PX and stuff like that. We call it the Haji shop. And we would, you know, go dial the 1-800 number or whatever it was on there and call home. And that's pretty much what I was doing in the phone center. I had a friend in there, my friend Tidwell. We still talk today. And he ran out after me. It's like, man, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I told him, you know, kind of what she had said. It's like, wow. You know, I remember him just hugging me and just like, man, bro, it's gonna be all right. But you know, I just wasn't trying to hear none of that back then. But you know, hey. Again, so let me get back to the letter. Let's start up with, I left the phone center feeling depressed, angry, sad, confused. It's like all them emotions coming in at once, you know, crying, everything, you know, just like hit you all at once, like getting hit with a ton of bricks. So that is not the way to start a 1-year deployment. For the next 4 or 5 days, I did not eat or do much. My roommate at the time, thank God for Sergeant Cruz. Sergeant Cruz would go to the chow hall, you know, just the MEPS hall or some of y'all cafeteria for y'all that don't know when we get food. But he would go to the chow hall and bring me back a plate to make sure I ate something. He would do that at lunch and he would do that at dinner time. Seriously. Luckily for me, we had not started doing, you know, missions yet. So after the 5th or 6th day, Sergeant Cruz sat me down, you know, in our room, and he asked me, he said, what was actually going on with me? You want to know, you know? And I'm happy he did that. To him, I just wasn't my usual cheerful self. Once I shared with him what had happened, he also shared with me that his wife had done some things in their marriage that you just couldn't forgive, but he had to move on and focus on survival. That is when I decided that I can't concentrate on things back home if I wanted to make it back home. I took my issues and I decided to give them to God. That decision changed my next 11 months in Iraq. Not concentrated on something that I could not control was the best decision I could have made. Praying to God and opening up to Sergeant Cruz helped a great deal. I will always remember what God did for me during one of my lowest moments in my life. Every time we went outside the gate, and the gate is basically going outside the wall, you know, we was inside a base. So every time you go outside the base or the gate, you know, we never knew if we were coming back. And that's just honest to God truth. As the mission started growing more dangerous and becoming more frequent, we started to have guys get killed in our unit. So we lost, you know, some guys from different, you know, getting shot or blowed up or whatever. You know, we lost a good people in our unit. Mind you, these are guys that I had gotten to know over time. You know, we had become friends. Some of them, you know, became like family. So, you know, I was basically seeing my family and friends getting killed around me, and there's nothing that I could actually do about it. You know, it's not all the stuff you see on TV, like the Rambo movies and all this other stuff. Man, this stuff not real. We're not out there. Got one person that can take out 400 people. That's not what it is. For y'all that don't know or believe and stuff like that. But anyway, let me get back to the letter. Improvised explosive devices were the root of all evil in Iraq at the time. We did not know where the explosives were buried or who was with us or against us. And the reason why I say that, we had like the Iraqi police. We couldn't trust them. Let's just be, I couldn't trust them. And then we also couldn't trust, you know, like some of the civilians, because they didn't want us there. So they would help set these explosive devices, and it was just a bad time. Let me tell you that 2004 to 05 was probably one of my worst times in my life. It's almost just as bad as the narcissist abuse I went through with my ex. It was pretty bad. So back to the letter. No one had a uniform on that would help us determine who was fighting against us. Like I said, we didn't know. It's not like we had military uniforms on. It's not like they had uniforms on. We could say, oh, they'll go to enemy over there. They shooting at us. Now they would have on regular civilian clothes, and next thing you know, they set off a explosive device or shoot at us, and they'll drop the gun. Rules of engagement was funny at the time. Let me tell you, that's a whole nother story. Our first 6 months were in the rural farmland area, so everything was farmland. We would just walk for miles and miles, you know, up and down the street, up and down different little towns and communities, trying to talk to the people, you know, because we knew people in the area knew something about explosive devices. And, you know, we just talked to people. And see, this is not even in the article, but it just touched me, just started remembering stuff. So I remember this one mission that we went on. We went and we just talked to, we was talking to different people. Nobody wanted to talk to us. Like I said, they really didn't. But they had one guy. He brought us to the back of his home. He talked to us for you know, a few minutes or whatever. He introduced us to his wife, and he had, you know, a few kids and stuff, you know, nice family. And he, you know, he said, well, look, he said it was a red BMW that will go around and set the explosive devices. You know, he spoke real good English. And he said one day they put the explosive device like in the ditch right in front of his yard. So he said he happily walked out there and he took all the wiring out and basically disarmed it to save a bunch of soldiers' lives. So, you know, I remember that guy, and, you know, that day, I don't remember what day of the week it was, but I remember that, you know, us talking to him, and, you know, we went off, you know, we took that information and we went on and went to other homes and went down the street and ended up going back into the base. Well, mind you, the next day, this place, it was called Four Corners, but this place, Four Corners, was always loaded with people. It's like meat markets and little shopping markets. You know, you can get food and lamb and all kind of things, goats and all kind of stuff. But it was loaded with people every time we would come out there, hundreds of people. Well, this particular time, we put up this next day, it was empty, like bone dry, like tumbleweed was flying through there. Shit, nobody, not a person was in sight. So we pulled up, and then they said that they thought they seen somebody laying in the street. So we stopped, we dismounted. And, you know, we took our time, we walked up, and we finally got up to the street. And I just remember seeing the same guy that we had talked to the day before that told us about the explosive devices. He was dead in the middle of the street. He had been beaten and shot. But on his, all on the buildings, they had taped up or stapled or whatever. But I know on his chest, he had 2 sheets of paper stapled to his chest. And basically said, it was in Iraqi, but it also was in English, so we could read it. It said, this is what happens when you talk to Americans. So that guy got killed for telling us information that we really couldn't do nothing with, because a red BMW is like a needle in a haystack, especially in Iraq, because we can't look up license plates like we here in the States, for y'all that don't know. So it's like, okay, they got 40 red BMWs. I don't know which one I'm supposed to be looking for. So, but anyway, that's just another story off topic of this, but it's still within reason of the entire article. Let me keep reading. Never seeing a dead body except for on television was obviously a new thing for me. We had to take our emotions, tuck them away to go on to the next mission. One mission that stands out for me was what I call the rooftop experience. It was a day that I thought I was supposed to be killed that day. You know, you think like that when you're in situations like this. Let me explain. This particular day was no different because it was always 110 degrees or more. The tar on the roof was sticky like Laffy Taffy or like Now-Laters for y'all to eat candy. It's real sticky. So if you sat down, it would stick to your clothes or rip your clothes off or whatever. And that was due to the heat. You know, it would just melt the tar. That's how hot it was. I was watching the road, making sure no one was stopping to place improvised explosive devices to try and take out the overpass. Right in front of the house we were on top of the roof, they had a overpass. It was just a walking overpass, but they would try to, you know, blow it up and things like that. So whenever somebody would stop, we always told them to move. You know, we had did these missions for, you know, at this point I had been out there 7 or 8 months in Iraq, and I think that was probably the 2nd or 3rd month, probably being in Gaza, the city we was in. So, you know, hey, so we went to switch positions so I could take a break. And I told the guy, you know, I remember telling him, I'm like, man, I'm good. You know, you can sit down and, you know, keep doing what you're doing. But he insisted, you know, that I take a break. And as soon as I sat down, I remember opening up a magazine and I read probably a sentence or two, and pow, gunshot. And nobody moved because we was used to hearing gunshots. But we had one guy that moved. He dropped to the ground screaming in agonizing pain. And I was like, you know, we all in shock. And, you know, once I realized that he was shot, you know, I jumped into, because I was the next highest ranking person at the time. So I jumped into, hey, save mode. Hey, y'all watch the building, see where the shot come from. Let's get them out of here. Start calling other people to get the vehicles moving so that we could, you know, get them out of there. Now, some say I'm lucky, but I don't believe in luck, but I do believe in God. What had happened, a sniper had taken a quick shot and hit him right up under his vest. The bullet bounced off the ledge, hitting a brick before hitting him in the back. So basically, it went right up under his Kevlar vest, or some people call it police vest, you know, for the police that wear it. And it just happened to bounce up under that and hit him in his back and came out another side of his stomach. The thing that I did not realize at the time was that he had his back to the street, meaning our soldier. He wasn't facing the road like I was or like other people would do. You know, you always face the road. But again, like I said, it was one of the things where you're comfortable. You know, you sitting there sort of like Narcissist, you know, you get comfortable with what's going on. And you stay in some of this abusive situation longer than what you need to. Same thing, just comfortable. Complacency, you know, comes to mind with that. So just what the thing was. So I had blamed myself for years and years that if only I had stayed up there just a little longer, a few more minutes, maybe a few more seconds, that guy wouldn't have got shot, because I knew I was facing the street with my gun drawn, looking at the street. And, you know, I just don't think that would have happened like that. And I blame myself, like I said, for years. I thought of all the things I could have done to change the outcome. It wasn't until I talked to a doctor with the VA, you know, the Veterans Hospital, that she made me realize that what had happened was going to happen no matter what I did differently. I couldn't change the outcome because what happened because of him not facing the street. It was nothing to do with me. And I'd stayed there for another hour. He could have went up there after the hour and he probably still would have got shot if he'd have did what he did. But I just didn't realize it at the time. God had given me a new outlook on life, but I was not sure of what I would do or become years later. My vision and purpose are vivid and clearer than it has ever been. Iraq is not something I should be ashamed or depressed about. Iraq is part of me, like the hair on my head. Iraq is part of the reason I am who I am today. God put me into that situation and also brought me out of that situation for a reason. When it comes to Iraq itself, I could probably write an entire book on the many times God protected me. There are more stories that I will share from my 42 years on this earth. There are many of them as I sit and think about all the good that God has done for me. He continues to bless my family and me. I could not have done any of this on my own. The end is not written for my life yet. Where I am now with Christ is actually the beginning of something beautiful. I can see a glimpse of what is to come with my family, and it is amazing. I'm here to witness the goodness of God when you make it out of a bad situation. Know that God has allowed it to teach you something. It's a teachable moment. You can't have a testimony without going through a test. Trials and tribulations, they come, but they don't stay always. So you have to realize that. You have to pray to figure out what that something is. God spared me through all that I endured in Iraq for this moment right now, to share with you that God is real and he wants what is best for us. Even at our lowest moment, God is still with us. I think a lot of times we think God is not with us. He don't hear our prayers because it's taking so long. But you got to remember, our time is not God time. It's actually the time that God sees fit for us to get these blessings or get us out of these situations, because we have to learn something from these moments. So let's get back to the letter. I do not believe in luck, not when God is involved. I do believe in blessings. I also believe in fate, and I believe in determination. When in doubt, call on God, and you will see what he would do. I dare you to give God a try, not only in your low moments, but in your high moments as well. I think a lot of time we get what we asking for God, and we forget about that God, the reason why we got what we asked for. So I think a lot of times, you know, when you sitting high on the, like they say, sitting high on the horse, we have to also realize that God is the reason why we're on that horse, because at the blink of an eye, you can be on the ground with everybody else. So we have to realize that. There are a few verses that help me now and help me back then. And I'm not going to read the verses out, but I'll put them up and you can look them up. I guess you can call this homework. So the first one is Psalms 3, verses 1 through 8. This is always a good read to read that, to be honest with you. The second one is 1 Corinthians 15, verse 33. And then the third one is Proverbs 18, verse 21. Just realize, be willing to try something different in times of need. If it's not working your way, why don't you try God's way? Sometimes our way is not the best way. And last but not least, I want to leave you with this. Keep growing your faith and reading your Bible. With God, anything is possible. Given my situation, he brought me out of Iraq. He saved my life in more ways than one. It has taken me a long time to figure out why I'm still here, but it is becoming clear now. Sharing my story with people from around the world is a dream of mine. I have many stories to share, and this is just the beginning. So, hey, that's the end of my actual article. I just wanted to share that with you. I know this is a little bit different, but I just wanted to share to just read this out to y'all and just know that when you're in those low moments, when you're dealing with narcissistic abuse, you're dealing with different kind of life dramas or just life tests, trials and tribulation, whatever, job loss, you're dealing with cancer, you're dealing with heart disease, with AIDS or HIV, or police brutality, whatever you're dealing with, you have to know that God is real. God is there. And I think a lot of times he sit us down for different reasons. And it's up to us to figure out why. It's up to us to ask, like, God, why are you putting me through this situation? Why am I going through this? And it's that time where we find our strength. That's what I believe. So my thing is, this, like I said, this was called, the shield around me. And like, as you see, I had it up there the whole time. The armor of God, Ephesians 6, verses 10 through 20. As they say, everything that they have, the sword of spirit, the word of God. It also says the helmet of salvation. It says the belt of truth, the shield of faith. They even got something with the boots. It's the boots to spread the word. You got to walk around to spread the word. So I just want to leave you out with this. Just know that all your situations, whatever it may be, you can always go to God in prayer. You're not in this alone, whether it's narcissist abuse or whatever you're dealing with. You're not in this alone. They have somebody that has been through the same situation that you have been through and has either come out of it or they're currently going through it. And we're waiting on you to tell your story. So what is your story? What story can you share where God has taken you out of a situation that without God, there's no way you would be here today? Whether it's narcissist abuse or whatever it may be, Like I said, I have more stories to share, and I'm going to share more stories like this. And for y'all that follow me on LinkedIn, like I said, you can go see or read this actual article if you follow me on LinkedIn. But I'm happy I'm able to share this with y'all. I hope it was able to touch somebody. And, again, hey, leave some, comments in the comment section, about, what God has done for you. I would like to hear them. Other people would like to hear them. What situation have you got out of that, only God did it? So, hey, again, this is Faith-Based Workplace. Go ahead and like the video, man. Subscribe to the channel by clicking that bell and share this content out, especially with vets or with people that are dealing with any kind of abuses or just dealing with any issues at all. And that this video might help them. I love all y'all. I appreciate all my subscribers. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the likes. Thank y'all. This is Solomon Savoy, and I'm out.
Faith-Based Workplace, LLC understands that narcissistic leaders are self-absorbed and hold beliefs of entitlement and superiority. At the same time, they act in their own best interest, putting others' needs and interests at risk. Therefore, workers can feel the pressure of working under narcissistic supervision. Such workers also may suffer abusive behavior from their narcissistic leaders. Companies with narcissistic leaders have higher turnover rates, and employees at these companies suffer from anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem. Faith-Based Workplace, LLC wants to help employees handle direct contact with narcissists. Faith-Based Workplace LLC's mission is to train employees on how to deal with other narcissists' employees, staff, and managers. Visit www.faithbasedworkplace.com for blogs, tips, and exclusive merchandise. Check us out on YouTube for help.